It's Wednesday, and a lot has happened since the last time that we recorded a video up here in the studio. For most of you, you're aware that we are about 25 to 30 miles north of Mayfield, Kentucky, where awful tornado went through, and many lives were affected. I think the death toll was in the high 70s or 80s, and so many more unaccounted for. So I want to start out before we do anything by asking you to be in prayer for those in Mayfield, to be in prayer for those in, I think it's the Cambridge Shores area of Marshall County that was hit pretty hard over by the Moors. That little area. There's so many places that are around. We have a mission that we used to support financially and are always supporting in prayer and trying to give as many resources to as we can, called the International Disaster Emergency Services, IDES. They are down in Bowling Green currently, unless things have changed, and it seems like things are changing rather quickly. That is one of the places that doesn't get a lot of attention, but definitely needs our prayers. So I want to open up by asking you to be in prayer for the folks that are down in Mayfield. Would like to ask you to be in prayer for our Don Adams. He had his biopsy, and the doctor says that things looked well, that they were able to clear out most all of the cancer, and the biopsy, and now a few more tests are going to discern whether or not it spread and what the course of treatment is. So if you would pray for Don Adams and his cancer. I got a call this morning, or a message this morning, from one of the members of our congregation, dear brother, somebody that I've not known very long, but I have always enjoyed visiting with him. Good handshake in the mornings, and we laugh about something silly. Dennis has been told that he has a spot of cancer close to his pancreas in one of the bile ducts, and they're going to do some tests, talk to an oncologist, and see exactly what needs to go on. But if you would be in prayer for Dennis Haney. We prayed for Linda and her surgery before, stress test, and a few other things, and now it's Dennis's turn, and we want to pray that that cancer is gone, that he is healed, and that God takes care of him. So again, just pray for all of those affected by the tornado. Pray for Don and pray for Dennis. I'd ask you if you would to pause the video just real quick and say a prayer for those. We have several others on the prayer list, and I don't want them to feel minimized or put on a back seat, but those are the three that I wanted to share with you as we got going today. So if you would take a moment and pray for them. And now we will get started with Matthew chapter 20. We're going to start at verse 20. So Matthew 20:20. I don't guess I'm going to have one of the cute little 2020 vision things to say about this or anything. This is another, as Jesus' ministry goes on, he becomes more and more plainly spoken. And what I was about to say is this is another time where Jesus just says something. Last week we talked about the vineyard and those that were called to go work in the vineyard. Jesus didn't try to nitpick every little thing. He didn't try to break every detail down. He just told a story, and he said, this is what the kingdom of heaven is like. And again, we see here in Matthew chapter 20 that someone comes to him and how he interacts with them, very blunt, very honest, but also he just says what needs to be said. He doesn't add anything extra. He doesn't leave anything quote unquote open for interpretation. He just says what needs to be said. And he allows the Spirit to work in people, and he allows the Scriptures to do the talking, so to speak. So let's get right to it and let the Scriptures do that speaking. Matthew chapter 20, starting at verse 20. The mother of the sons of Zebedee came up with her sons. Kneeling before him, she asked him for something. And he said to her, what is it that you want? Notice Jesus doesn't immediately say yes. I've had several folks call me and they'd say, hey, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to do something for me. And sometimes I would say yes, and then they would ask, and I'm like, oh goodness, there's no possible way I could do that. So lately I've gotten the habit of saying, what can I do for you? Or I'll help if I'm able. Because even if I'm not able to do something, there's been a lot of things over the last 3 or 4 days that I've been able to do nothing about. But I do know someone that can do something. So either through prayer or through people that have resources. And now I'm finally going to get to go down and begin working. Found a place that can put my talents to good use, and if you want to ask me in person about that, I'll tell you a little bit more. But it's good for us not to immediately walk into, well, sure, what do you need? Let me help you out. What can I, I'll do whatever you need. See what it is first. Jesus has wisdom. Doesn't want to make any promises that he can't keep. So he says, what do you want? And she said to him, say to these 2 sons of mine, are to sit, one at your right hand and one at your left hand in your kingdom. The right hand and the left hand are very prominent places in kingdoms. In the Greek mythology, in any king that had a throne room, and any of that, the people that sat close to him were trusted people. He didn't think they were going to assassinate him. He didn't think that they were going to try something funny, poison him. He would have them close, so if he needed some guidance or direction, they were right there. And there have been lots of different things. Again, I encourage you to do some study on your own. So Google, what does the left hand of a king or the right hand of a king signify? There's lots of power, lots of that is a place of honor and authority that's by there. So if Jesus is at the right hand of God, then first of all, somebody asking, can they sit at the left hand? They're asking to be put in the place of God. If Jesus is at the right hand of God, and Jesus is here, so Jesus' left hand is to God. And again, this woman doesn't know what she's asking. Jesus even says that to her. But she is asking, basically, can you take care of my sons politically? Or can you take care of them financially? Can they be prominent members of what you're going to do? I realize that you're not just a flash in the pan teacher that's okay. There's something to what you're saying. I want my sons to be close to you. That is a wonderful idea. This is not how you ask that question. And I've heard authors and ministers confuse those. Make no mistake about it. This woman wants her children to have a position of power and authority, to sit at the right hand and at the left hand. Not just, can you be close to my sons? Can you be close to them? She asks that because if she would have said, can you stay close to my sons? Jesus probably would have said something like, well, if they stay close to me, I'll stay close to them. I'll never leave you, forsake you. He tells his disciples in other places of the Bible that. But his response to, can my children sit at your side, one at the right and one at the left? Jesus answered in verse 22, you don't know what you're asking for. You have no idea what you're talking about. You do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I am able to drink? They said to him, we are able. So the guys pipe up a little bit. Jesus, first of all, tells this woman, I don't think you know what you're asking for. And then these two guys say, well, we'll be there with you. We're going to stick right by your side. We're going to do this. We're able to do that. And again, Jesus, he said, boy, I don't think you know what you're saying. It's one thing that this woman doesn't know what she's asking, but when Jesus says, are you able to drink the cup that I'm going to drink? And they say, sure we are. They don't know what they're talking about. Are they able to be crucified with him? Are they able to go and endure all of that without abandoning him? Some of his most faithful disciples abandoned him before he even got to the cross. And these guys are like, we can do it all with you. But Jesus wants to make sure that they understand, and I appreciate this. Verse 23, he said to them, you will drink my cup, but to sit at my right hand and at my left is not mine to grant, but it's for those to whom it has been prepared for by my Father. Jesus says, you think you can hang with me. You think you can drink a cup of bitterness and sorrow and hurt. You will drink a cup of bitterness and sorrow and hurt, but it's God that's in charge. I have had several requests over the last week of people wanting to, get aid to somebody down in Mayfield to use our building as kind of a jumping off point, even though we're more than a half hour away from really any place that there's a lot of work that's going on. So, we're pretty far away. There's some people that are asking for funds and, coming into me. We even had somebody totally unrelated to any of the storms or anything ask if they could use our gymnasium for a reception of some sort. And it always makes me smile a little bit when someone will ask and I immediately say, well, I'm going to have to ask the board about that. We'll have to have a quick board meeting to ask about that. Because I guess in some denominations or minister groups or whatever, man, the preacher is it. Whatever the pastor says, it goes. And I'm not the one end-all be-all authority of a congregation. I submit to the elders, the spiritual leaders of this church. We're here especially in this particular congregation, were here in the 1970s and 80s and 60s even, when this church was being formed and being built, and they saw it grow in the 80s and the 90s, and it became something beautiful over those years. And for me to come in, and even though I've been here a while, to say this is how it's going to be and take over, and say this is what we're going to do, and this is how we spend the money, and to have no accountability or authority, that's not, I've never been comfortable with that. I don't like that. So when people say, hey, can we have this? And I say, well, I have to ask the board. They make the final decision on that, which our bylaws state that. And it's good to have multiple people's input on certain things, because there are times where I think, well, sure, what could possibly go wrong? And then guys that have been around and know things a little bit more than I do say, I'll tell you what could go wrong. And then after I hear a few things, I think, ooh, I didn't think of that. I'm glad I got some wise counsel. The Bible tells us to do that. So Jesus, when he is asked, he says, you don't know what you're asking for. But then he goes on and he says, my Father makes those decisions. When it comes to places of authority and honor, my Father God is the one that will make that decision. So I think sometimes we should maybe take a moment, take a step back and say to ourselves, what is it that God wants? Not what we want, not what other people want, but what does God want me to do right now? And I have a feeling life would go a lot better if we did that more often. So it says in verse 24, when the 10 heard it, they were indignant at the two brothers. So the other 10 of the 12 disciples are mad because they were like, they're trying to take over. They want to be in charge of everything. This is ridiculous. So they get all upset and all frustrated. You can understand the human side of that. Jesus called to them and said, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and the great ones exercise authority over them. It shall not be that way among you. But whoever would be great among you must be your servant. Whoever would be first among you, be your slave. Even as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to give his life as a ransom for many. So what Jesus is saying here is he said, you see people that get drunk with power. They love titles. They love authority. I don't pretend to know what goes on in other congregations and other denominations. I'm here on Sunday morning and Wednesday night. I'm here at the office or out visiting people in the hospital or in their homes during the week. So I'm not connected to the way other churches do things. I hear things. I see a video now and then. I'm told stories. But Jesus says, you guys understand how the Jewish Pharisees and Sadducees, that structure of leadership works. He says, you know that they love to lord over things. And as I said, I've heard stories, and even though I'm not in those circles, I hear people that, the minister wants to be referred to as Reverend so-and-so, or Doctor so-and-so, or Bishop, or Elder, or, there's some title that they really grab hold of, and they say, this is my power and my authority that's rooted in that. And then, whether maybe it's not a minister even, maybe it's somebody that's like, well, I'm in charge of a group of churches, and, they are going to talk to me about what's being taught or what the needs are of the community and those things. People, as the old saying goes, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Boy, it's dangerous when you get a handful of power. And Jesus says it's not like that. You guys should be worried about who's going to be at my right hand and who's going to be at my left hand, who's going to be in charge. Where's the seat of honor at? Is somebody going to be well respected when they're around me? Jesus said that's the way they do it. And they're not doing it right. He said, but whoever among you would be great, you want to be great, you want to be seen as head of the game, so to speak, or hold a position of honor or authority, whoever would be great among you must be a servant. You want to be in charge of something, you want to be viewed by God as somebody that's well done, my good and faithful servant. It's not well done, my good and faithful manager or corporate CEO or somebody that has a major title. It's well done, my good and faithful servant. And that's the point Jesus is getting at here. He said, whoever would be first among you must be a slave. Not even just be last. Because we've seen that. Whoever would be first, we talked about that last week. Whoever would be first will be last, and whoever is last will be first. Jesus takes it up one notch now, and he says, if you want to be first, Whoever would be first among you must be a slave. Serve willingly, free service, and in the roughest of conditions. Whatever is asked by the master, we do it. And he says, even the Son of Man came not to be served. Jesus said, I didn't show up to have people kneel and kiss my feet and bow and have this beautiful title and have everybody say, oh, did you hear what he said? He's so smart. He's so intelligent. He knows what he's talking about. Jesus says, even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. Jesus has given us something so precious and so rich, and we should follow that example. If you're here on Sunday or you were able to go back and watch our video on Facebook, you saw that was my sermon, straight out of Philippians chapter 2. Jesus did not think something of the idea of being equal with God was something to hold on to or to grasp. He willingly emptied himself, the scriptures say, and he became a servant. He washed his disciples' feet. I gave a little extra detail. I said, imagine him down there with the washcloth, getting in between every toe, cleaning out we think, oh, that's gross. That's how much of a servant he was. Jesus didn't leave any area uncleaned. Now, I don't know if he had a washcloth. I don't know if he was getting down there in between every toe and if he was working on the toenails and all that kind of stuff. But he did that. He willingly took the role of a servant because he was setting an example for them. And ultimately, he took the role of someone who is condemned. He took on our sin and he died. And when he came out of that grave, our sin is paid for and we have a brand new life waiting. So I encourage you to pray for the people down in Mayfield. I encourage you to pray for the ones that I mentioned, Don and Dennis and all of the people that we've been asking you to pray for over the last few weeks. But I'd like for you to look at this. If you weren't here on Sunday, or even if you were, I encourage you to go back and read Philippians chapter 2. See what Jesus did with his life. We need to be servants. The first will be last. The last will be first. Whoever would be first among you must be your slave. Jesus says it all. So I'll let him have the last words and say, but whoever would be great among you must be your servant. God bless you.